Fire, 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 fire.
Chad, did you hear about the Louvre? The Louvre heist? Oh boy. Oh my goodness, they stole a bunch of jewels and then they got away with it. Uh-oh.
As the hydraulic lift clicked steadily upward towards the quickest money they'd ever make, they looked down to the street
Easy
below.
clap.
They knew two masked figures in a bucket heading straight for a 19th century window into the Louvre's upper floor might raise some eyebrows, and time was already not on their side. You see, these weren't your average thieves. Their eyes were
smugglers.
set on the French crown jewels worth nearly 100 million euros.
Chad, if you stole the Louvre jewels, would you tell me?
As the bucket reached the second floor, one of them
You
pulled
better.
out an
You give me-
angle
give me- give me-
grinder
give me a
and
bite.
smirked. This was meant to be the most secure museum in the world. No one was meant to get in, except now they were. Once inside, they knew they were going to fall to their level of rehearsal. Every move was deliberately calculated, and in less than 8 minutes, 9 priceless pieces of jewelry were gone. 88 million euros vanished into the Paris morning. This is the Louvre heist, minute by minute, and it all started with a careful plan.
How exciting. So how did they pull it off, Chat?
The Louvre has stood longer than many countries, but to understand how anyone could plan to rob it, you have to know what it really is. It didn't start as the tourist attraction that we know today. Back in the 12th century, King Philip II built it as a fortress, protecting the western edge of Paris. But when peace finally came, so did vanity, because by the 14th century, King Charles V decided
You want to show off all your big shit in your big spot, that's why.
that a fortress was too ugly, so he turned it into a palace. Over time, it was rebuilt again and again, dressed up in the French Renaissance style. But by 1682, when the royals moved out to Versailles, the Louvre was left behind, handed over to artists under royal patronage to be used as a creative residence. Fast forward to 1747, critics started calling for something radical. A public museum, a place where anyone, not just nobles, could see the royal collection. It would take a revolution to make that happen, the French Revolution. But the Louvre officially opened to the public in May of 1791.
Huh, that's pretty early, actually.
Okay, so
I
it's
thought it was way
old,
later
it's
than
grand,
that.
it
I thought it was the
survived wars, but
1900s.
does that really mean anything for the
Museum.
robbery? The Louvre has historically been a very important museum, but it really became famous in 1911 when you could say it created the first
Museum.
meme by getting robbed. Do you know why the Mona Lisa is famous? I mean, this might get some comments from the art world, but she's tiny, cracked. Like, it's hardly something to stop a crowd, and for centuries this was true. She didn't mean much for anyone outside of the art world. And yet today, 8 million people now queue to see her at the Louvre every single year. It's because the Mona Lisa didn't become famous because of art. She became famous because she got stolen.
I
In
think it's average,
1911,
actually.
An Italian
Hi,
patriot
Mia!
named Vincenzo Peruzza, who had once worked at the Louvre, had the bright idea of stealing the Mona Lisa, believing that Leonardo da Vinci's masterwork should have been returned to an Italian museum to honor da Vinci's Italian legacy.
Honestly, that's kind of base for someone who could have probably stolen it and had money for it. Yeah, like sell it off. He's like, no, mamma mia, this painting, these disgusting French people, they put here into the museum and Leonardo da Vinci is going to get it back into Madre Italia. Very based.
And the reason this became a meme is pretty simple. Vincenzo's master plan was very simple. He was going to walk into the museum early in the morning while it was still empty, wait until nobody was looking, then hide the painting under his coat and leave. It worked, and the robbery, of course, was an outrage. This dude shouldn't have been able to steal Da Vinci's painting so easily. And at the time, the telegraph was a new, blazing fast way of spreading news across Europe. When news outlets around Europe found out about the heist, they went crazy, plastering Mona Lisa's face all over newspapers.
So she was
Everyone
so
from
famous
all walks
after
of
that,
life
huh?
would have seen the Mona Lisa, would have known that it had been stolen in France. This made the Mona Lisa the most talked about face in Europe for the week after the robbery, and hence many say one of the first memes. 2 years later, the painting was recovered in Italy when Vincenzo attempted to sell it to an Italian gallery, and when it returned to the Louvre, it became the main attraction. However, this also raised some questions. The Louvre had already been robbed once. Surely they would step up security, especially in our modern times. Video surveillance, alarms, motion detectors, heck, throw some lasers in there, a little bit of security glass, maybe a couple of security guards? A century has passed since the Mona Lisa was
Some people believe that having security guards in like a museum or like a place where you can look at like artifacts and stuff detracts from the experience, but I'm like, I don't know, I feel like sometimes it's probably necessary, no?
stolen, but still, the Louvre had critical security flaws ripe for abuse. So let's
My parents took me to a museum in I think it was Florence, Italy, for when we went on vacation one time. Yeah, and I remember there were so many paintings that I just would stare at forever. I was like 8 or 9 years old. My parents actually said, Alana, you were like the most silent you were ever in like a long time. They praised me the whole time. They're like, wow, Alana, you did so good. Pat, pat, pat on the head. I still remember it to this day. I would stare at paintings for like at least 2 to 3 hours then.
closer look at exactly what happened.
I love art.
We don't have enough guards. We have issue with elevators. We have issue with water leaks. Nobody listen until something dramatic happens.
True. This guy knew. This guy knew. He was an insider. You also, as an insider, you know when the holes are in like guard shifts and shit. So that's really insightful.
October 19th, 9 a.m. The Louvre opens to the public. Everything looks normal during the morning security sweep. Nothing's missing, no threats are identified, and so the guards go back to drinking their morning coffee. But at 9:30 a.m., a ladder truck
and they
pulls up
know
and
when they're gonna
parks
go
on the
drinking.
public road next to the western wing of the Louvre. There's no security to stop anyone from doing so. It's a public road, after all. Within a minute, 9:31, two figures in high-vis vests raise themselves up to the second floor using the truck's lift to reach the
If you look official enough with like official uniform, people will believe you. You get some fake uniform, you could probably pass as a security guard.
gallery d'Apollon.
Yeah.
For now, passers-by assume it's some normal construction work. As for the
Yeah,
museum
yeah.
security,
No,
they were in the
no.
blind. There was actually no
High-vis and
cameras
clipboard,
pointed
yes,
to this
exactly.
spot.
And a
No one
helmet
saw
too.
the gang climbing up that ladder truck until it was too late.
The only exterior camera on that side of the building was pointed the wrong way, leaving the very wall
They
the thieves were
knew!
scaling completely unwatched. Into a gallery, home to France's crown jewels, some of the Louvre's most valuable treasures. In the next minute, 9:32, glass to the window leading inside gets cut with battery-powered disc grinders. Since the Louvre is a historic building, subject to rules restricting how it can be worked on, this had not been reinforced with something like bulletproof glass. The battery-powered grinders made quick work. 9:33, the robbers enter through the window.
That's
The
kinda
alarm
weak.
gets triggered, but the guards have no clear idea where the break-in is happening. Camera coverage in this part of the museum was spotty at best.
They
Their
would
exact
know.
entry point is still a total blind spot. So for the next few minutes, the robbers will move almost freely throughout the gallery.
Smart.
9:34, officially inside, they start cutting through and smashing display cases. Visitors are the first to notice where it's happening. Some run for help, but security is scattered across hundreds of meters of galleries. They scramble to get the situation under control, but there's only 5 guards covering the entire area. None
Again, like they knew, they probably checked somehow.
of them are armed. All are trained mainly to guide crowds, not confront power tool wielding thieves. The only thing they can do is
no
observe
guns.
and report, so they call first responder units, but
Orange.
that doesn't mean a SWAT team. It means the Paris Fire Brigade, who handle
What?
emergency response for much of central Paris. 9:35, the thieves know exactly what precious objects they want to take. They start looting them from the cases. First, the tiara of Empress Eugenie, set with pearls and diamonds. Then, the corsage bow brooch, Marie Louise's emerald necklace and earrings, Marie Emily's sapphire tiara, necklace and earring set, and finally the reliquary brooch. Curiously, they leave behind the Regent diamond, one of the Louvre's most famous treasures and worth the most out of all of these by far, but we'll come back to this later.
Wonder
For now,
why.
9:38, just 7 minutes.
Wait, they just grabbed him? Shouldn't they have like a trap door? Dude, I've seen so many like heist movies, and like part of the reason they design things like this is that if something even remotely happens, like even an earthquake or like someone shaking the box in a certain way, it makes like a trap door. It used to have a trap door. It used to. Why did they remove it? That's so retarded. They just like smashed it and then grabbed it. They didn't have. There used to be a trap door. They changed it. Nah, that's a skill issue, actually. That's so dumb. Like, I have every single heist movie I've ever seen or heard of. They usually have a trap door. You shake it around and then it just drops down the jewels or whatever it is and saves it.
And finally, the reliquary broke.
Because it was offensive to foreigners? Are you fucking kidding me? What? How is it offensive to foreigners to keep jewels, priceless jewels, safe?
Curiously, they leave behind
How?
the Regent Diamond, one of the Louvre's most famous treasures and worth the most out of all of these by far, but we'll come back to this later. For now, 938.
Trapdoors are racist. I can't even think of like how that's even possible.
7 minutes after they start it, they're back out the window, descending towards the street with all of their loot. This is the first chance we get to see the robbers in action. As panicked museum visitors are filming the moment. In their hurry to get away, they drop the crown of the Empress, but there's no time to pick it up. At 9:40, they hop on their scooters and disappear.
On their scooters, not even a getaway car.
Into the morning. From here, they have to disappear. And Europe is the perfect continent to do this.
Yeah,
Perhaps
that is
a
true.
quick change of clothes, and then they can jump on a train, and in a few hours, they could be in another country. Importantly, they can avoid going through the big central airports. Maybe stop in some quiet town until the heat dies down. That is, if they're smart. Back at the Louvre, the museum is shut down. Visitors are escorted, making room for an investigation to be officially underway.
Getting robbed by guys on
As
scooters,
French
man,
police
that's
flock
crazy.
to the scene, they find left behind 2 angle grinders, a blowtorch with a gasoline canister, gloves, a walkie-talkie, a blanket, and the damaged crown, dropped mid-getaway. Within hours, 60 investigators are assigned to the case. Security across Europe's airports is stepped up to the max. Random roadblocks and train inspections are put in place. The French police are using everything in their power to track down the stolen goods. From an initial profile, they determined the thieves
Just
appeared to
2 goons getting away with it.
be 30-year-old males, but that doesn't really narrow things down, now does it? The first theories point at it being organized crime commissioned by a private collector, as many other museums were also robbed leading up to the Louvre heist. As if this case couldn't get any more whimsical, this photo started spreading like wildfire. People thought this was a real detective on the case. Turns out it wasn't, but for the French detectives, the thieves had made some amateur mistakes. First, they left behind DNA evidence. They were finding it on nearly everything: inside the basket lift, on the display cases, on the ditched scooter used in the getaway.
Are you? I mean, am I surprised it was just 2 goons that thought they could get away with it? No, really. Like, it's just 2 goons on a scooter.
But something else.
How did they leave DNA? Fingerprints. Like, hair, too. Hair. You lose a lot of hair
drawing the
when you're
investigators'
walking
attention.
around.
According to labor unions, Louvre security had been undermined by staff reductions, even though the attendance was rising and rising. Check this out. The union that represents the security guards and other staff at the Louvre issued this statement on October 19th, complaining about the destruction of security jobs and lack of timely funding for technical equipment over the past 3 years at the Louvre, stating that the robbery was the consequence that all professionals in the establishment feared as an outcome of these cuts. So this said, investigators were smelling some blood in the water. Disgruntled security workers, perhaps an inside job. So it makes sense that the first thing investigators would check.
What if they did this and it was all to just prove how easy it is to do without like putting in massive amounts of effort just to make these people look like idiots?
Were the phones of people working security at the Louvre. What they found is digital forensic evidence that a member of security was in contact with the individuals suspected to be the robbers. That security team contact reportedly provided sensitive information about the museum security layout and operations. Suddenly, the speed at which they were able to pull this off makes a lot more sense. But clearly, the group wasn't very technically savvy. It sounds like their man on the inside was communicating with them on conventional instant messaging apps, the kind that are wide open to message recovery like this. It also means that investigators were likely able to trace the cell phones connected to every robber the security guard had been in contact with. There are all sorts of creative ways they can do this. I actually just posted—
They didn't have a burner phone?
a video about how a tax refund scam exposed the FBI's secret surveillance device invented for this exact purpose. So it's entirely possible that from this
Why would you not use a burner phone?
data alone, investigators had their first clear list of suspects, or at least the ones directly involved in the physical theft. Finding out who ordered the robbery or who the buyer was meant to be might be a little more complicated, but catching the robbers would
I've always been interested on how like big things get moved around in the underground. How do you sell something to like a buyer if it's like an infamous piece? Like, for example, they sell a crown. Like, you have a crown and you want like $100 million for it. It's like, it's like, who's gonna have that kind of money? A, and who's gonna be willing to like grab it and put it in their house or whatever? Take the gems out? Yeah, okay, I can see that, but like, what if they want to sell it like wholesale? Put it on eBay?
always be the first step.
Yes.
Still, that's a tall order. Even if their identities had been traced through their phones, investigators still had to catch them.
What if you want it wholesale? You're just a gangster that wants like a crown. That'd be kind of sick.
If the robbers were carrying smartphones, investigators could easily trace their movements after the heist.
Yeah,
one way or
pinging it.
another, within just 6 days, they knew one of the prime suspects was at Charles de Gaulle Airport, about to flee.
Yeah,
to a-
those cell phones ping all the time. Like, I've watched enough crime investigation to know that even back in like the 2000s, cell phones ping pretty often, especially smart cell phones as well. They ping a lot.
Algeria. Now, the investigators had a dilemma. Do they let him go to avoid alerting his co-conspirators? They didn't want them to start cutting down all the jewels or going into hiding. But as it often is in these cases, when the suspect is leaving the country, that is the time that they have to act because international pursuits become much more tricky.
Interpol can circulate notices, not warrants, and French authorities can request Europol support to coordinate prosecutors.
So moments before boarding, the man was arrested. Later that day, another suspect tried to flee to Mali, and he was caught too. But here's the issue. Under French law, they can only keep suspects in custody for around 48 up to 96 hours if they can prove it was an organized crime case.
You can steal jewels worth millions and millions of dollars, and they can only keep you for 48 hours? Interesting choice, France. Yeah, for sure.
For either releasing them or presenting them to a judge. So time wasn't on their side. What
Interesting.
exactly happened in these initial interrogations is still under wraps, but by October 29th, reports say
No
at least
evidence.
one
Oh no, the evidence isn't that two guys literally got in and got out with the jewels. No, that's not organized.
suspect partially admitted involvement. And from there, the arrest started piling in.
Well, French media report the two men can be held in police custody for up to 96 hours through Wednesday evening before prosecutors decide.
In fact, according to multiple news reports, the next 4 suspects were arrested while waiting in line to go into a football match. Of all things you could be doing while hiding from the police.
Hiding in plain sight.
Maybe skip the football game. So far, 7 people have been arrested in connection with the heist, including 3 of the men who actually were involved directly in the break-in. The others, according to reports, helped organize the heist in some capacity. But what about the jewels? Despite the arrest, the stolen pieces are still missing. Art crime experts think that they'll never be seen again because from the start, the investigators stated they thought they only had 24 to 48 hours to find them before they'd likely be broken down into their raw materials.
Yeah,
This is because
okay,
the
that
diamonds
makes
and the
sense.
gold alone could fetch around 40 million pounds.
Wow,
And this way,
that's
they
a
couldn't
lot of
be
money.
easily traced back. this is also likely why they didn't go after the Regent Diamond, despite it being the most valuable in the entire collection. It's too recognizable and not worth nearly as much cut down. Still, we don't know. Perhaps the stolen pieces are sitting in a safe place somewheres, waiting for the heat to die down. And perhaps,
that's
like
probably
the
what
Mona
it
Lisa,
is.
they will be found again.
Harder to move. Chad, I'm thinking we smuggle the Louvre. Next we should do, I don't know, what's a really famous one? Some sort of like British museum? Yeah, I need a crown. A pretty crown made of cheese.
Oh yeah. Fire, fire, fire.